Morning, A group. We are in class today. I lost my mouse. Not just on the screen, I forgot to get it out. Okay, we are working on chapter 2. I was just telling the A group, I don't know who I just talked to. I don't know, B group, you're at home, hi. For this week, today, tomorrow, we'll do notes while you're in class. B group, you'll need to watch the video and answer the questions on the Google form. And then Wednesday, your online assignment is to fill in all of the notes for the chapter. I will check that on Thursday or Friday, depending on what day you're here. And then also this week, you have your first vocabulary quiz. I think this thing is foggy. I don't know why it's foggy. Yeah, it's still foggy when I take my glasses off. I don't know what's happening with my camera. I'm sorry. Other thing that I did just tell this class that I want to make sure that I tell everybody at home, if you're absent any day, go to the YouTube channel and you can find the notes from that day. I label it biology or bio with the date, so even if you're not in school, on one of your in-school days, then you can look at it on the line. We are coming up very quickly to our I think we have 2 more weeks of this hybrid model. Then if things are looking well, our school plan is to reassess, and quite possibly we're going to be here more days a week, which would be awesome because you're not watching the videos, so you are already falling behind. We do still have those keystones, don't forget, so make sure you're watching the videos, because some of you are failing because you're not watching videos. All right, as a review, yes, you better check those grades before Friday night.
Oh, we can fill
once I put stuff in. Okay. Just make sure you check those because it's below the 60s again. All right, so on Friday, we looked at the different types of bonds. When we looked at the different types of bonds, we said in a bond, the atoms are usually doing something with the electrons. So in a covalent bond, the atoms are sharing electrons. We're going to talk more about types of covalent bonds in a minute. In an ionic bond, one atom is going to take electrons from another. Sometimes we say donate and accept, but whatever. One is gaining electrons, one is losing electrons, and it's making them be ions. And again, ions are charged particles, so they either have a positive charge or a negative charge because they are losing or adding extra electrons. If you're not quite sure where it's at in your notes, just keep following along. You're going to fill in the notes on Wednesday, so if you can't catch up right now, it's okay. Talking about energy. Energy is the ability to do work. It does go in different forms. So we have light energy, there's chemical energy, kinetic energy, potential energy, thermal energy, mechanical energy. And we're going to spend 2 chapters, I think it's chapters 6 and 7, talking about energy transformations. So one entire chapter, we're going to talk about taking sunlight's energy or light energy and converting it into chemical energy in the form of glucose. We call that process photosynthesis. And then in chapter 7, we talk about taking that glucose, that chemical energy, which is a type of potential energy, because it doesn't do anything until you have to convert it. So we take that and we're going to convert that into mechanical energy, or the energy for you that's going to be there so that your heart can beat and your lungs can breathe, and that you're able to survive. And then we release a little bit of thermal energy or heat as a waste product. All atoms are in a constant state of motion. You should know that. What do we call it when atoms are like really tightly compacted together and they just kind of vibrate back and forth a little bit? What state of matter is that? Anybody?
Composed?
I'm sorry?
I don't know. I say composed, but
No.
I think that's right.
It is compact.
Oh.
Like in this cup, I've got all 3 states of matter. There's one state you can hear.
I think Dalton's right back here.
What do you say?
Solid.
Solid. Good. It's a solid. So my ice is in a solid form. Actually, that doesn't really work with ice. We'll talk about why tomorrow. But ice is in the solid state. This table, this is carbon. So these lab tables, with the exception of a couple of those that are plastic, the ones that are like really hard, they are slate. It's carbon that is tightly compacted together with some heat and pressure, and it makes the slate. that's on those tables. Man, this fuzziness is driving me nuts. Why is it doing this? Anybody? My camera needs cleaned, but I cleaned my camera. But I probably have to take my case off and then clean my camera. It's super humid in here, maybe. I don't know, whatever. Sorry, you just get fuzzy, Mrs. Cunningham today. So, solids. Molecules are tightly compacted together into a definite shape. This lab table isn't changing shapes anytime soon. It's not going to be able to go to the next state of matter. What's the other state of matter? Solid, then liquid, right? So in liquid, how do I get from a solid to a liquid?
Freeze it. What?
Solid to a liquid. You melt it. What do I have to do to get it to change?
Heat it up.
Heat it up, right. I'm glad you said that. Yes, the great answer when you are in elementary school and like middle school is that you heat it up. But when we look really at heat, heat is actually a waste product. So heat is one of the waste products of metabolic reactions. Instead, we would say that we want to add energy. So if we add energy to the solid, now it goes from being a solid into being a liquid. So the molecules start to separate a little bit and they kind of roll over top of each other. And then what happens if I add more energy? It turns into a gas, exactly. So then it turns into a gas. Again, we want to call it thermal energy. I have in parentheses heat because you're used to seeing it be heat, but thermal energy has to be added or removed in order to change from one state to another. So in my cup here, it's in a solid state. The ice is in a solid state. As I add more water, it's going to transfer the heat energy from the liquid water into the solid water. So it's going to heat up, or it's going to add thermal energy to the ice, and it's going to cause that ice to melt. We have other states of matter. We have plasma, but we don't discuss plasma a whole lot in biology because it doesn't exist for very long. And if your body were in plasma form, you would die.
Nice. What if you die and then you put your body in plasma form?
You could. I think I told you about that awesome book that I read that like all the different things that you can have done to your body. And one of them is called, oh, I lost it. They have like a real nice name for it, but basically they dehydrate your body. So they like kind of, so instead of burning it like through cremation, they remove all of the water. So they kind of like put you in a smoker, basically, like if you were smoking meat. They put you in a kind of like that, just a really big industrial sized one, and remove all of your water and then kind of crush everything so that you end up being smaller than if you were cremated. I think like the top runner for me, I don't know, I want my body to be donated to science, but you can also be turned into like a diamond. That might be fun. But then I also feel like I should go back to the earth and just let like the cycle continue.
I'm gonna just jump off the bridge.
Bad idea.
Oh, wow.
Bad idea.
That's so
Chemical
bizarre.
reactions. Chemical reactions. One or more substances change to produce something else.
I meant when I was like old or dying.
No.
That's how
No. We're done. We are done.
I think Mr. Ross.
No. I understand what you were saying. Yes.
I definitely.
Back to the earth.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Go back to the earth. Right.
That's a real-
Burial at sea. I don't know, a Viking funeral. Those are illegal, but that would be
Yeah.
fun too.
A Viking funeral?
Yeah, like where they put your
Body in a
they like
canoe.
put you on this like wooden boat surrounded by wood,
And
and then they float you off, and then they shoot flaming arrows at you.
you light
What
on
is
fire.
happening?
It's a good way to die.
It's like an old
You wanna
Viking
be shot.
tradition. No, you're not.
You're
It's,
already dead.
Yeah.
It's
You wanna
just
be
a
more dead.
funeral.
You want to be more dead.
it's just
You're- oh,
okay. So it seems really weird to us because we are used to certain standards for what happens to you after you die. But in a lot of other cultures, they do different things. So it just is a cultural difference as far as what type of ceremonies, whether they're religious ceremonies or civil ceremonies, happen to somebody once they are no longer here. Okay, Chemical reactions. In a chemical reaction, you have two sides. You have the reactants and the products. The reactants are on the left-hand side. They are reacting. The products are the things that you're getting at the reaction. Couple of things. You will always have equal sides. When you get to Mr. Georgie's chemistry, you will balance equations, meaning that you are making sure that you have, it's the same ratios, kind of. So here we have 2 hydrogens on the left, so we have to have 2 hydrogens on the right. Here we have 1 carbon on the left, we have to have 1 carbon on the right. Here we have 3 oxygens on the left, so we have to have 3 oxygens on the right. A lot of reactions happen in one direction, some happen in both directions. Sometimes you'll see arrows, and it wouldn't let me make the arrows like over top of each other, but the arrows over top of each other, and then we know that that reaction can happen in either direction. Like it's a reversible reaction. Not all reactions can do that. Metabolism is all of the chemical reactions that are taking place in you or any organism. And there's lots of stuff happening right now. You have processes that are going to be causing you to take in oxygen. And as you're taking in that oxygen, it's breaking down the food that you ate. It's breaking it down into a usable form so that you can produce energy, so that you can continue to digest food, and your heart can beat and your lungs can breathe. Every reaction, though, requires a certain amount of energy for that reaction to start. That's called the activation energy. I can have 2 things sitting next to each other all day long, but they are not going to react with each other until you put a little effort into it. Kind of like I can make these videos. And I can make these videos, and I can do a whole song and dance up here. But if you're not watching the videos, you're not learning the science. Right? Okay. So you have to put in a little energy. Whew, I wasn't even planning for that to all come out. Anyway, activation energy. How much energy has to go into that system? A catalyst lowers the activation energy. Lowers how much energy has to go into that system. And we have something that are called enzymes. They are a type of biological catalyst. We're going to look at them. This picture, I blew it up, so I'm going to look at it bigger. Usually they are RNA or a protein. Most of the time we think of them as proteins. We'll have like an entire day just talking about enzymes in chapter 3. You'll have probably 2 or 3 questions out of your 20 questions on the keystones just about enzymes. They are super duper important. What happens if your body stops making these enzymes?
You die.
You die sometimes, or you just become lactose intolerant. So if you are lactose intolerant, I am lactose intolerant. I became lactose intolerant when I was pregnant with my son. And so I used to be able to eat dairy all the time, no problems. So my body produced the enzyme lactase that breaks down the sugar lactose. It stopped making it when I was pregnant, and it doesn't make it anymore. So if I want to eat dairy, I have to take those little pills, those little lactate pills, that is the lactase enzyme, so that I can digest that dairy.
I mean, almond milk's pretty good.
Almond milk is good. Mine is so bad that I can't even eat like Cheetos or Doritos because of the cheese powder that's in it. So yeah. Plus, I like almond milk. Almond milk is good, but it's still I don't know.
I think the chocolate almond milk is like the best of all.
Yeah. I use almond milk for my protein shakes and stuff like that. I do like that. I try to stay away from soy though. Soy is heavily genetically modified, and there is seems to be a correlation between breast cancer and soy consumption. So if you just eat a whole ton of soy because it's so heavily genetically modified, it seems to happen. That's what the evidence is showing right now, not 100%. All right, I'm going to move over here so I can draw. Okay, now looking at the screen. Here is a hill, obviously. And here's man, and this man is trying to push this boulder up the hill. So he has to put in energy, right? He has to put in energy from here to here in order for that reaction to occur. I want to make sure that you can see this, people who are at home. Okay. He has to put in that much energy in order for that reaction to occur. What happens if he just stays here?
You won't do it.
Right, nothing's going to happen. Okay, so in order for this reaction to occur, he has to actually push the boulder up the hill. Okay, that is the activation energy. How much energy this guy has to put into the system before the reaction is going to occur. Okay, a catalyst comes along and acts like this. Tell me what I'm drawing.
A vacuum.
Not a
It's a
vacuum.
bulldozer.
It's a bulldozer! Yeah! It's a bulldozer. I left some else.
When she first threw the odor.
We're gonna finish it up. Here's the little man, the bulldozer
What's
driving.
going on, little guy?
I like the idea of a vacuum.
This is
Thunder's eyes.
Or like a leaf
Steering wheel.
blower.
Please must be.
he's gonna wear
Yeah,
Really, really
look
strong
like
leaf
he's
blower.
a ball cap.
jacked. I'm just trying to push it.
And he's smiling. I have to say, that's probably one of the better bulldozers I've ever drawn over the years. Huh,
Nice little tool.
I like it. That's how bad of an artist I am. So, this bulldozer is the catalyst. Woo! Now I can't write letters. L-Y-S-T, catalyst. This bulldozer, it's flying, it's just a magic flying bulldozer, because I didn't draw anything else under it, so. Magic flying bulldozer is the catalyst. What does this catalyst do? What did we say a catalyst does? Back here?
Takes away.
It does what here?
It's the way it's
Reduces the amount of activation energy. So if this magic flying bulldozer catalyst is going to reduce the energy, what does he have to do?
Flip a button and push pedal. Push the rock over there.
He could push it up, but then he's not reducing the energy. He is reducing the energy. But he messed with the reactants. This magic flying bulldozer comes along and it's just gonna knock the hill down. So now the guy only has to push it this far. And it's a very, very shallow area. So he does that, and so the catalyst has knocked down how much energy this guy has to input. Did the catalyst change the man?
No.
Did the catalyst change the boulder?
No.
No. Did the catalyst change the products? No. They're the same products. The only thing that it changed was how much energy this guy had to expend. So it just knocked down that hill so that he didn't have to put out so much energy. And that's what a catalyst does. Doesn't change the reactants, doesn't change the products, just changes how much energy has to be there. So what you said was if the catalyst pushed the boulder up, it would change the reactants. So that's why why the magic flying bulldozer can't just push the boulder itself. That would be changing the reactants. Any questions on that? For now, that's good. We'll spend an entire day on that later. I can't talk. When we look at reactions, we have often what are called oxidation reduction reactions, and we saw that when we were looking at the ionic bonds. So when we were looking at the ionic bonds, we saw that in some of those reactions, some of the atoms were gaining electrons, some of the atoms were losing electrons, and they were making those charged particles. In a oxidation reaction, something is going to lose one or more electrons, so it loses electrons, and it ends up with a positive charge. So we would say, when we looked at this, I'll come back. When we looked at this, nope, still waiting, here. Sodium was oxidized. It lost electrons. It gave one of its electrons to chlorine. And then we would say that chlorine is reduced. Why do we need to know that? We need to know that because whenever we are looking, and there's the sodium being reduced, whenever we are looking at different reactions, particularly when we're looking at photosynthesis and cellular respiration, we are going to follow the flow of energy. We're going to follow the flow of electrons in order, because it's how the reactions work. So when you see this oxidation reduction, that's what it's referring to. We need to talk about polarity. So this was an ionic bond. So oxidation reduction reactions, those are ionic bonds. When we look at covalent bonds, when the atoms are sharing electrons, that is whenever we are looking at things like polarity. So here's my question. If I have a cookie, let's just do this. So I have a cookie, and I split it down the middle. And I take half and I give her half. Are we sharing the cookie?
Yes.
Are we sharing the cookie equally?
Yes.
Yes. What if I have a cookie and I go like this? And I give her half and I take half. Are we sharing the cookie?
No.
Yes.
Well, yes.
Are we sharing the cookie equally?
No.
No. And the same thing happens whenever we're looking at electrons. So whenever atoms are sharing electrons, if they are sharing those electrons equally, we call this a nonpolar bond. Because they are equally sharing those electrons. One is not holding on to those electrons more than the other. Everybody is happy. There's no charge. There's no positive, no negative, nothing. Everything is just exactly the same. In a polar covalent bond, the atoms are not sharing their electrons equally. One of them is holding on to those electrons more. So it gives it a slightly positive charge. Nope, wrong way. Slightly negative charge. I'm sorry. Oop, there we go. I was actually really just watching you two sharing a brush and thinking, that is such a bad idea.
It's okay.
Okay. In the side it's not holding on to those electrons quite the same. It has a partially positive charge. And that becomes very important whenever we're looking at water. So, here, I'm going to erase this on here. So something that is nonpolar holds on to the electrons evenly. It's going to, like this one we looked at methane before, carbon with the 4 hydrogens. Everything is being completely equally held together perfectly fine. We only find that in one group. In chapter 3, we talk about lipids. Lipids are these. They're the oils, fats, waxes. Soap is a type of one as well. But they are all nonpolar. That is their distinguishing characteristic. I'm going to ask you that 8 billion times. What is the distinguishing characteristic of lipids? And it is this right here, that they are nonpolar. What? What is out there?
Biology.
Geese.
Biology.
Geese. I saw on the Facebook, and I don't know how true it is, something about like a mass migration of birds through our area tonight. Anybody else see that?
No, but that's a bunch
Oh, so it's like on the news, so it's not just like a Facebook thing.
of
Huh.
Are they geese?
Okay, you guys can mask break.
Are they geese or goose?
One is a goose,
Geese.
multipolar geese.
There's
Okay.
a bunch of geese out there.
Please remove your body from up there. Thank you. Okay. There's a second type that are called polars. Water is polar. That means when we look at water, and I think I have it right here. Whoop, there it is. The oxygen, it's a little more electronegative, meaning that it's a little stronger. So it's still sharing electrons with hydrogen. Please put your phone down. Thank you. There is oxygen, and that oxygen is holding on tighter to those electrons than the hydrogen are. So there's a partial positive side on the hydrogen and a partial negative side on the oxygen. So we have a polar covalent bond sharing unequally and a nonpolar covalent bond sharing equally. So what does that mean for us? Polar compounds are only able to dissolve other polar compounds. And non-polar can't. Polar dissolves polar, non-polar dissolves non-polar. Look at my science boyfriend. He's got a whole thing on polarity. And watch. Question. Say you go home, because it's still tomato season. So you go home and you make bacon, and you're gonna make BLTs. So you make some bacon, and it's in your pan. And you're done, and you clean it up, and you go to get the bacon grease off of the pan. How do you get the bacon grease off the pan? What do you have to do? Scrub it, wipe it out.
Just wait, I take it when it's real hot and dump it out in the backyard.
You take it out, dump it out in the backyard. But then what about your pan? How do you get your pan clean?
Put it in the dishwasher.
You wash it, and the dishwasher works too. With what? Soap. Ooh, Dawn dish soap. I'm glad you said that. Soap
Packet thingies.
is non-polar. And, oh my gosh, those little packet thingies, those little like cascade packet
I
thingies.
gotta put like 3 of them in there.
That's a lot. I was putting one in the dishwasher the other day, and my daughter goes, those smell really good. And then we had this like, no, we have to talk. You cannot eat these. They do. They smell like lemon freshness, and they're so cute, and they look like gummy, and
They look like cake.
they look like gushers or something, and you could like.
They're delicious.
You've tried them?
Yeah,
I'm
they're
really
so
not
good.
surprised that the people saying that they have tried them.
Rick,
Bro,
especially Tide Pods.
Tide Pods,
Ooh,
yes.
thinking
I'm
Tide Pods.
not surprised.
I've actually never done that, but okay.
It's just a joke. I know. So you have to use soap because soap is non-polar and that grease is non-polar. So that non-polar soap is going to pull the non-polar grease off of the pan. What happens if I have, and I decided that maybe I don't know, so like some of those keto diets and stuff, you just eat like a lot of fat. So part of my keto diet, I'm gonna make bacon grease tea.
What?
So I like heat up some water and then I put some bacon grease in it to like whatever it does with keto, put your body into ketosis. I'm just making up something right now.
Okay.
Is the water and the bacon grease going to mix?
No.
It's gonna
No.
sit on top.
It's going to sit on top because the bacon grease is non-polar and the water is polar. They can't mix. And this is why, because polar only dissolves polar. What if I wanted to put some hot chocolate mix into my water? Would that work?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because then that hot chocolate mix is polar. The water is polar, it's going to dissolve. But if I put bacon grease into my water, no, it's not going to dissolve. That's super important. Like water and oil. And Dawn, you said Dawn. That's one of those ones, I don't have Dawn. I think I have Ajax or something. I don't know. But on the Dawn, it has like the little ducks. So that's what they do whenever they have an oil spill. They can use that Dawn on the animals that are around that have grease, or not grease, have oil on them. And then that's going to help them take that grease off. So that non-polar Dawn dish soap takes the non-polar oil off of them. It's been a while since I heard about an oil spill. Huh.
I don't even know where that would be.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Water is a polar molecule. Here's why. Same stuff. What we just said. Oxygen and hydrogen don't equally share the electrons, so they have slightly different charges. They do dissolve things that are polar, like sugar. Don't dissolve non-polar. So if you're making sweet tea, is it easier to dissolve your sugar if the tea is hot or cold? Why?
I don't
I don't know.
Kind of. What's the science reason other than just it melts it?
Polar and something.
What's happening to those water molecules?
They're boiling.
It has more energy, exactly. They're boiling, they're getting closer, they have more energy, so those molecules are moving quicker, so it helps dissolve the sugar quicker. So if you put it in cold water to dissolve it, or cold tea, now those molecules aren't moving as quickly. But what can you do to get it to,
Mix.
you stir it, because now you are increasing the sugar, or increasing the energy in the cup.
Would it take so long?
Any questions? Okay, tomorrow we're going to talk about the characteristics of water. Wednesday, you're on the line. Thursday, I'm checking your notes. So make sure you get all of those notes done by Thursday. That's 10 points for your notes.
Oh, yeah.
PowerPoint is on your Google Classroom. See you tomorrow, B Group.